Hello everyone, it's Robbie Rhino and welcome back to the channel. And in today's video we are going to have a little delve back into Cold War and have a look at the Era 2 Eastern Alliance tank destroyer, the Object 120, which is a tank destroyer I've been having a lot of fun with recently. It might not be the most competitive tank in Era 2, but it's definitely a lot of fun with the big alpha damage. And yeah, it's a very unusual looking tank, as you can see in this video if you haven't already seen the tank. I'm just going to run down the statistics and my commander and equipment, and then we'll talk about the gameplay as usual. So this TD has 2,250 hit points, which is the best of all TDs in Era 2, but it's still pretty mediocre compared to most of the heavy tanks and medium tanks. It has 495 meters view range, which is pretty decent. It's kind of the high end of average. And the maneuverability is one of the best things about this tank, in my opinion. For a tank destroyer with a gun this big, it's such a great platform to get around the battlefield. You can go 63 kilometers an hour forwards and 18 kilometers an hour backwards with a power to weight ratio of 17.78. It feels really nice for a team with a big gun, as I've said. And the traverse isn't too bad either. The whole traverse is 38 degrees a second. Turret traverse is 26 degrees a second. The only downside to this tank, and it's pretty obvious, as I'm sure you've all guessed, the camo isn't very good. Just because look at the absolute massive profile of this tank. But it kind of doesn't really need the camo, I don't think. It has this lovely gun, it has this great maneuverability, and it's just a blast to play, really. And yeah, you can have some pretty damn decent games in it. So what gun does this tank have? Well, it has a 152.4mm smooth bore cannon. That sounds really pleasing to say, smooth bore cannon, and it's as pleasing to say as it is to play. This gun has 850 alpha damage on its APCR and heat rounds and 1100 on its HE. The penetration is not too bad at 398 on the APCR. It's a little bit lacking. Great penetration of 480 on the heat rounds, but heat rounds can be very difficult when you come across spaced armor on some of the sort of Soviet heavy tanks. So I mainly carry, as you can see, APCR. I only carry, I think it's 6 shells of heat, and the HE at 150mm of penetration is largely useless, in my opinion. You might feel different, but I don't carry any at all. So this gun has a 3.8 rounds a minute, which is not too bad. It's about a 15-second reload base, and I've got that down, I think, yeah, to about 11 seconds now, just shy of 11 seconds, which is, yeah, very nice DPM for such a high alpha damage. The gun has a great aim time of 2.3 seconds base, 0.34 accuracy, which doesn't look great on paper, but it feels a lot more accurate than that. And of course, with commander skills and equipment, you're going to get that even better. A little bit of a downside is the gun depression at 5 degrees, but because you are so tall, you can sort of make some of the ridgelines work, and because of the maneuverability, I kind of feel like it makes up for that poor gun depression. 15 degrees of elevation, it's kind of mediocre. It doesn't really bother me too much. And another massive bonus to this tank, and this gun in particular, is the shell velocity on the APCR rounds of 1710 meters a second, which is absolutely fantastic. But just be wary, if you do switch to the heat rounds, you only have 920 meters a second and 850 meters a second on the HE, so you're going to have to sort of practice your lead and get a little bit of a feel for the gun. So what equipment do I run on this tank? Well, I actually run a traction system, which is very strange for me. I don't usually run speed equipment on many tanks, but I feel like the maneuverability has to make up for the poor camo, and I run it so I can get a top speed now of 69 kilometers an hour, 20 kilometers an hour reverse speed, and 17.78 power to weight ratio, which is absolutely fantastic. I also run an advanced load to get that reload down and improve ventilation for the 5% boost on everything. Commander skills: Sixth Sense, Born Leader, Rapid Loading, Steady Aim, Snapshot, Run and Gun, camouflage, expertise, muffled shots, situational awareness, just to give everything a little bit of a boost, especially with the gun handling, because it's 0.3 for accuracy, but it ends up feeling really, really nice. And as you can see there with that shot, I auto-aimed when the enemy heavy tank was moving away from me, which isn't usually advisable. Because of the fantastic shell velocity, I actually managed to connect that shell, and I bounced off the rear of the Sheridan, which is just typical World of Tanks there. But fortunately, we've had a good game so far, picking up 6.3k damage and 268 assistance damage, and it's looking fairly close at the moment, so I'm going to see how I can affect the game here. I'm going to come over the ridgeline now, snap a shot into the heavy tank down there, duck back down, enhance the combat ration to get my reload down. We're going to see what the reload is now, so it's down to it's about 11 seconds with the combat ration, so I was a little bit off earlier, but yeah, it's not too bad at all. And 10-11 seconds for a reload of 850 alpha damage is absolutely fantastic. One tank left now. We've managed to swing this game right at the end. We get a shot into the Sheridan and he gets hammer wrecked by the Mobat, and we pick up 8k damage and 268 assistance damage. And we finish third on the team, which isn't too shabby. Pick up a nice chunk of silver at 200k. First class medal. And yeah, a very, very enjoyable game and a very enjoyable tank. And we're going to hop into the next replay, which I've had now. This is when I think, just needed the guns. That's what I was going for right at the end there. So not too much of a difference between the stock gun and the fully upgraded gun. That's just a bit better accuracy and a better rate of fire. So we're going to hop into the second replay and I'll catch you there. So we're now in the second replay of the video, and we're here on Fredvang, and this is a game that I had yesterday, so it's a nice fresh game and a very enjoyable game. I come back to this tank and I think I'm going to try and go for some marks on this tank. I've got so much going on in the game at the moment, I'm kind of a bit sort of overwhelmed by trying to get marks, grind for things, but yeah, it's keeping me busy anyway. So this tank, I'm really enjoying it. On paper, and just looking at it, like I said in the start of the video, I wasn't too sure I was going to like it. I thought it looked maybe a little bit, you know, not as competitive, and in some ways that's kind of true. I mean, I think heavy tanks, Era 2 and 3 especially, are extremely, I wouldn't say overpowered, but they're extremely competitive, they're extremely advantageous basically because of the armor, and they pretty much have the same speed as a light tank. You know, they have penetration which is as good if not better than this tank. Yeah, and it kind of feels like sometimes like, well, why am I playing other tanks in Cold War? Why don't I just go for the heavies? And I think sometimes you've got to look at it from the perspective that this kind of tank you just play for fun. It's slightly more of a challenge, kind of like some of maybe the medium tanks and maybe some of the light tanks as well. Sometimes different tanks offer different things like ATGMs, and you know, you've got the Sheridan and things like that with HE and heat rounds, and it just gives you something different. And this is nice big alpha damage in Cold War, and I find it really enjoyable. I've always been a massive fan of sort of high alpha damage guns, and tank destroyers are one of my favourite classes. So anyway, on Fredvang, where have I come to? I've come to D7, and it's a position that I like to come to on Fredvang now, especially in Cold War with the True Vision system. I'm gonna just sort of sit behind this rock. I've got cover sort of behind me, to the side of me, and in front of me, and I'm just gonna basically shoot what gets spotted and try and scout out on the horizon for tanks that are unspotted as well. And it's a great place because I have these rocks here just to hide behind when I am reloading, and I can pop back out and get shots in to the tracks of Eastern Alliance heavy tanks that just absorb your shell. But that's just World of Tanks 101, isn't it? That's just what happens. But you're going to see how good this tank is there at sniping at long range, and with that fantastic shell velocity. If you're not fantastic at leading targets, and maybe you want to sort of start practicing having to lead targets a little bit less than you would in other tanks, this will be a great tank and a great choice for you. It's not as forgiving as very many of the tanks in Cold War, especially the mediums and heavies, because the armour is non-existent. In my little rundown of the statistics, I didn't mention the armour. Basically, it really is non-existent. It sort of ranges from 15 to 30 millimeters all across the tank, so anything is going to pen you. HE, ATGMs, you name it, you're gonna get penned. But now we're fighting this hiss. I'm gonna just take in a few of the shots and using some of my hit points, and he gets shut down. And we have that great DPM with this alpha damage, so I felt like I could take those shots, and I didn't want to kind of try and reverse back because I felt like I would get shot in the side. So I felt the hiss has pretty low alpha damage, and I felt like I'd only take a few and I'll be able to finish him off with my friendly's help. So we picked up 4.3k damage and 500 assistance so far, and we're going to carry on doing what we've been doing and just sniping, doing what this tank does best. You kind of don't want to get into brawling situations. It might be kind of obvious, but don't get into brawling situations with tanks like heavy tanks and medium tanks that have better DPM than you. I'm not sure what happened with that shell there. I think that was a little bit of lag or something like that, or just normal poor aim for me. You let me know in the comments. But yeah, don't get into brawling situations. You want to kind of play support, snipe and roll. Maybe save your hit points up for the end, and then you can sort of go in with your maneuverability. And because you have such great maneuverability, great sort of traverse speeds, it gives you the opportunity to move around the battlefield, outflank your opponents, and sort of stay on the fringes of the battle, just getting shots in whenever you reloaded. And if you can do that, then you're going to pick up great games like the couple I've had here. I think this tank would be capable of absolutely fantastic things. Maybe not as competitive as, you know, a lot of the heavies, like I've said, but it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it. I highly recommend playing it if you like your big alpha damage and your TDs, and you just want a bit of a change from the sort of heavy tank meta that kind of is in Cold War. So as I've been rambling on talking about what's been happening in the game and this tank, we've picked up 7.6k damage, and we're just trying to find the last tank here. And this last little scenario here is just me being lazy. I could have pushed this even further, I believe, if I played this just a little bit better. We do get, we do get one shell into the tank there, but we didn't. We aimed that really poorly at the turret. We got too close, and our gun depression, we didn't get our gun down far enough. But we still had a decent game nonetheless, as that last tank gets taken down. And that's another victory. We finished MVP in this game with 3 kills, 7.6k direct damage, ace tanker, 500 resistance damage, and again we pick up a nice chunk of silver with 259,000, and that's what's so good about Cold War as well, and I'm really enjoying this tank. I hope you check out this tank and you enjoy it. Please let me know if you like this video. I hope you're enjoying the content. Lots more to come. I hope you all have a great weekend. I'll see you on the battlefield, and bye for now.